So we're going to begin row 1, but in order to get it set up, I want to make sure that I have my working yarn to my left and my first set of chains also over to my left. It's important not to twist your stitches or to twist your chains. We're going to leave them laying as flat as possible. Now, according to the directions, row 1 starts with work 2 single crochets into the second chain from the hook. So what that means is I'm not going to work into this. This is chain 1. This is chain 2. So I'm going to skip 1 stitch and go to the next. So I'm going to dive into here, and then I'm going to do 2 single crochets in the same hole. There's 1, and now I'm diving right back into this large hole here. So I'm doing 2 single crochets in the same stitch. So now I've completed that first part of row 1. Now to continue with row 1, it says to do a single crochet in each chain until I reach the very last chain. So I'm going to dive directly into the left, grab and scoop. I have 2 loops, grab and scoop and pull through both. That is a single crochet. So I'm not going to dive into this stitch because it's a big hole. I'm going to go right to the one to the left. I'm going to dive in, grab the yarn, scoop it through. I have 2 loops. I'm going to grab some more yarn and scoop it through both loops. So I've completed a single crochet. So let's do that again. We're not going to go into this because you can see here that the yarn is attached to my working yarn and it's through this hole. So I've already used this hole for this project. I'm going to go directly to the left, dive, scoop and pull through 1. I have 2 loops here. I'm going to scoop and pull through both, and that's a single crochet. So let's do a couple, and you can just watch. You can slow it down or speed it up if you need to. Let's make a mistake so we can see what that looks like. If I was to dive into the same large hole again, even though I've already used it, so my yarn is attached to the working yarn, I should skip this one, but I'm going to do it anyway to show you what a mistake looks like. So now, if I was to set my work to the side, I can see here that there is a large hole and it almost looks like there's a little arch of extra stitches. Whereas before, it's even and flat, and now I have an arch of extra stitches. So I don't want that. I'm going to pull out my work, and I'm going to go back to right here where I have my starting loop, and I'm going to skip this one and go to the next. So let's do a few more correctly. Let's watch my thumbs and how I hold the work. I mentioned before that it's important not to let the yarn or the chain that you've been working on twist. And because we're at the very beginning, sometimes it's really hard. So we want to hold with our middle and our thumb. We want to hold this working yarn or this working chain very, very tight. I'm going to skip the hole and I'm going to go to the next one, dive through. And now did you see my thumb and my middle finger skipped up to here to hold on to this? I'm doing that so that it doesn't twist. And then I come back to my chain. Dive, pull through one, jump to the big chain, and pull through both. We do that so that we don't twist the work. Again, watch. I can see that my work is twisted, so I'm going to turn it the right way. Dive, pull one, switch to holding my larger chain, pull through both. Adjust, go back to the smaller one, pull through, hold the larger piece of work, pull through both. Small, pull through once, switch to the larger work, pull through both. As you get going in crochet, you may find that you start doing this very, very naturally. So let's just watch a few stitches. And show you a mistake that I made. I have split a stitch. So what that means is that right here, I have split the large yarn into smaller pieces, and I really want to pick that up so that everything looks nice and neat. So the way that we're going to do that is I'm going to pull back to here because this is where my beginning loop is, and you see how this separated? So I'm going to go ahead and dive in, and I'm going to start again, but this time I'm going to go real slow when I dive through here. I'm going to make sure that I got the whole piece of yarn and then continue to crochet. Splitting yarn is very common. You just have to stop, undo a little bit of work, and go back. Let me split a piece of yarn on purpose and show you what that looks like. So if this is my working piece of yarn right here, I'm going to dive into this hole. Maybe I miss and I split it right through there, and I have a tiny loop on my hook. I have split the yarn. So I'm going to come back and go into the hole and not through the middle of the yarn. Let me do that again. I'm going to split the yarn. And you can usually tell if you split the yarn because it gets to be very difficult to pull. It almost tugs rather than slides through easily. So I'm going to dive into the hole, making sure not to split the yarn, and then continue through. Another common place to split the yarn is right here. When you're pulling through the loops, it is not uncommon to pull and split through here. And you can usually tell because you'll feel like your hook gets all tangled up and it's not pulling again. So I have split the yarn. I can actually see it here that I've split it. And that's why it's making it so hard to get a bigger loop. So I'm actually going to relax my hands, pull everything out, and pull back to my starting loop. All right, You are going to continue this all the way through all 142 stitches until the very end. And I'll meet you back here to show you the very last part of row 1. The last part of the pattern for row 1 says that you need to put 2 single crochets into the last chain. So I'm going to go right here into this last chain, and there's 1 single crochet, and then I'm going to do it again. I'm going to go into that same giant hole because there's no more to the left, and I'm putting a second chain. Oh, split that stitch. Let's fix that. There we go. So I put a second single crochet into that last hole, and now I am done with row 1.